So, Javier Campos. Sometimes I, just get into it, but I would love to just have a little introduction. Who is Javier Campos?
Javier Augusto Campos Páez Orozco Martinez Pinto Covelli de la Valle Salcedo, right?
Oh, wow.
Is the son of Roque and Luz Angela, the grandson of Nestor and Conchita, Ramon and Sara, and the father of Michelangelo and Francesco.
Wow. That's very impressive that without hesitation, no delay, you were able to go through all of those family members. That's very impressive.
Well, when I left my country many years ago, my grandfather told me, you are not just Javier, you are an ambassador from your family and your ancestors. One day your kids will be carrying those last names, so you have to honor your ancestors. And remember, your kids will be doing the same. That's what I'm doing.
So have you passed on that sentiment to your kids?
I hope so. Right now, they are not into. They are just teenagers trying to play games on the phone.
Okay.
But hopefully one day they will understand the value.
At what age do you think you understood that value for yourself?
Definitely when I left my country.
Okay.
When I came to the United States and I learned that I was brown.
Okay. So just a little bit more of identity at that point, or what went into that? Because that's an interesting thought, and a thought that I've never had associated with somebody migrating to the United States.
At one point, I think it's related with identity. At one point, I was trying to understand myself and this path that I started many years ago. And I have to pray to my ancestors to help me because I learned that even if I try to hide my accent, even if I try to walk as a white person, I will never be white enough. And I was brown, and that means that I have my own history, and I start digging into that and learning and valuing everything, my background, my language, my accent, everything.
So a couple of things that stood out to me as you said that, all of it fascinating, but the first thing is that when you were kind of going through, it seemed like a stage where you were maybe wanting to be perceived more as a white person to fit in a little bit better. And like the second part of like now going back and trying to, I don't know, is acceptance the right word, of accepting, going back and accepting like those parts of you?
Peter, I think we all, well, that's a general statement. I shouldn't say we all. I think based on my personal story, my own journey, I want to belong.
Okay.
I want to prove that I was more like Colombia, cartel, Pablo Escobar, drogas. So at one point I want to kind of be a part of that and try to be more a common, normal, if I may, person from the United States, especially from Utah. Utah is a really interesting place. So I tried to camouflage myself, and it didn't work out with this color skin, beautiful color skin. It didn't work out. I try. Now it's not an acceptance. Now it's a humbling. I'm grateful. I'm grateful about the path my ancestors already walked. I'm humbly grateful about my own experiences and the journey I've been able to ride in this beautiful land.
Yeah. You talked about, fitting into the group or the community. I think that's what we all want, right? We all want to feel some sense of fitting in, and we all go through dances throughout our life, whatever that dance might look like, of maybe changing who we are to a certain extent to fit in.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And I think for me, like just the process of aging and getting older and getting a little bit more perspective just allows me to sit back and be like, it's way too much work to try to be anybody else than just who I am, right? I just need to accept who I am, even though it's a fight sometimes, and it's like sometimes you get bummed out about who you are for different reasons, but at the end of the day, you always have to remind yourself that can't be anybody else, just got to be who I am.
I think so. If not, it will be just like hypocritical from me to tell everybody, be yourself, enjoy yourself, be proud.
Right.
And then feeling shame or,
Yeah.
from my... No, I think at this point this is who I am. And if you like it, you're welcome to my circle. And if not, it's okay.
Right.
But you don't have to be part of my circle.
Yeah.
This is my truth. This is my life. This is my journey. And I have the right to write those pages.
Yeah. I think that's a really healthy perspective. It's just like being open and accepting to others joining you and who you are. But if they're not into it, then they don't have to be a part of it, right?
Correct.
But I'm sure as somebody that migrated, you've experienced the extremes of that, like, racism, other things, discrimination based upon who you are, yeah?
Yes, but it happened everywhere.
Sure.
We had the same issues in my country as well.
Mm.
And but when we are part of the privilege group, we don't know, we don't notice, or we don't care.
Right.
Is when we are the other side of the coin, right? When we are the minority, the outsiders, the invisibles, is when we start caring about those social issues.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I've had to kind of trod that path a little bit myself growing up, white middle class in Utah. I didn't understand some of those things, and it wasn't only until I kind of pushed myself and got different opportunities that I better understood them. I'll never understand them as somebody from those groups, but I think, just giving myself opportunity and opening up conversation has really helped me to understand some of those things.
And you do really well, Peter.
Oh, thank you.
You have become a really voice for those marginalized groups, and you do really well, my friend.
Thank you for that compliment. It means a lot to me. Briefly, I'd like to talk about, so you mentioned, coming from Colombia, being born and raised there, Colombian, and acknowledging your ancestors and heritage, which I think is beautiful. Colombia on a whole is, I think, a lot more ethnically diverse than we as Americans think, and maybe lots of other people in the world as well. Can you talk about that? Because I think Colombians, people from all parts of the world come to Colombia, right?
It's a beautiful paradise.
Yeah.
Well, we were colonized.
Okay.
And remember, Europeans came to our land, and they... Some people celebrate Christopher Columbus. I don't. I'm really aware of what happened to my ancestors. But after the Europeans, we have people from Spain, from Italy, from Middle East, obviously Africans, all races. A big immigration from China as well.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a mixed. My mother's family are from Italy. My father's side are Guane. That's a tribe from the north of Colombia. And you can find everything there: Italian, Spanish, native, black. I'm a mix of everything.
I wasn't as aware of the Chinese and black African. Was that a part of the whole slave trade?
Yeah.
And what caused people from China to be interested in Colombia?
I think looking for better opportunities,
okay.
Like we all immigrants.
Sure.
If you are doing well in your country, if you have all the privilege, you will never leave unless you're forced. Right?
Sure.
So I think each one has their own story and reasons why. But I think the bottom line is always looking a better life if not for you, for your future generations.
Uh-huh.
That's probably what I think.
Yeah. How old were you when you left Colombia?
Now you're pushing hard.
I didn't ask how old you are now. You don't have to reveal that. It's just how old were you when you left Colombia?
I think I was around 28, 27.
Okay.
Long time ago, my friend.
But I'm old enough to kind of, I don't know, it seems like an interesting time to make that transition. I'm trying to just think back of me in my later 20s finishing up grad school and kind of figuring out who I really was and what I wanted to do with my life. Were you in a similar position of all these transitions happening and you're trying to figure out? And
Oh man, we lost everything. It was a difficult time for my family. We lost everything. We were living a really socioeconomical, political, interesting moment in Colombia, with all the violence, guerrillas, FARC, ELN, challenges that I didn't see any future. I want to move forward with my education. At one point, I want to go back to Colombia and start working with the community there. And I came here. I found love. I fell in love with the sexiest brain on earth. That's my wife.
Okay.
And here I am many years after. But I was looking for opportunities. And this beautiful land opened the doors to me. And it hasn't been easy, but I have many privilege and enough support system. And I'm happy where I am right now. I'm really grateful.
That's awesome. I'm fascinated by the stories of people migrating to the United States in general, but Utah specifically. Like, out of all the places in the United States that you might want to migrate to or could migrate to, Utah seems like a unique one that either maybe was chosen for you or you chose yourself. So I don't know, was it chosen for you or did you have part in this decision, and what were some of those factors that said, okay, Utah seems like a good place?
I think I chose, but my wife probably decided for both.
Okay.
No, I moved to Florida.
Okay.
And I was living in Florida, and I met my wife. She was here in Utah. We got married here. She moved to Florida, and we were living there for, I believe, 2 years, something like that. And then September 11 happened.
Okay.
And it was a scary moment. We didn't have any family in Florida, and she said, let's move to Utah. Family is there. Her family lived here. And I say, well, sounds fantastic. I will learn English because I didn't know any language back then. If today I'm struggling, can you imagine about 30 years ago, right?
No struggle today.
So we decided to move. And always deep in my heart was, I want to work, help, support the Latinx community. Back then was the Latina community. Right now, we're more inclusive, I would say Latinx community, right? But it was looking for the dream. It was always looking for that dream of giving back to the community.
I love that. What parts of Javier say, like, community work's really difficult? Like, I'm involved in some community work. You're probably more involved in the direct community work than I am. I don't know, maybe, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe we're equal in our community. Doesn't matter.
You're really humble. You are really humble, Peter.
But I'm wondering, like, it's really difficult work. So why was the community work the thing that you wanted to focus on?
I didn't choose. Community chose me. It works that way. Sometimes in life we are so arrogant that we think, oh, I chose this. No. Life and its magic just move puzzles around you, and sooner or later you are just part of that puzzle, and you just enjoy the ride, and that's it. So,
yeah, I mean, for lack of a better word, and this is associated with some religious connotation, but like kind of a calling. You were called to do the community work.
Yes, it's a 24/7. I always tell my students, I'm a social worker. That's how I define Javier Campos. I'm a social worker. All the credentials that you have after your last name, those are nice things, gift that the life gave you.
Right.
But I think feeling as a social worker means working with the community in the micro, meso, macro level, whatever, but always looking for the community, right? Looking after the community. So I think that's what happened.
And it seems like you're a little bit more into the macro area of community work, or you're all. I mean, you do a little bit of all of it, but does one or the other stand out to you in what you enjoy or what your calling is pushing you towards, or?
I'm really enjoying it right now. Clinical has been a learning experience. It has been a challenging experience, especially after COVID. I miss being with the community. COVID changed everything.
Yeah.
I used to be in the community, going to houses, being part of the community.
Yeah.
I wasn't an outsider. I was part of the community, and I miss that so bad. That's probably where my heart belongs.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And sometimes as we go through and we mention these terms, I like to define a little bit for the listener, because not everybody knows kind of like what clinical work or what individual work is. And no, that's okay. I think it's just part of like the education process that I want everybody to kind of understand what Javier does for the community. And so clinical work is like clinical mental health work, where you're helping somebody through therapy, counseling sort of sessions individually. And then, you know, also talking about this meso and macro work. We're talking about how can we more influence the community on the social needs that we see in the community. So Javier does a wonderful job in all of it. And yeah, it's a great definition of what a social worker is all about. So
You are very, very kind. One thing that I would like probably to add is that many times we go into the community with that Occidental lens about, I'm going to save the community. I want to tell them what is, and I believe more in the approach of capacity community building.
Right.
Just go and see what are the strengths and understand and being humble, learn
Right.
from the community and serve
Yeah.
more than this is the way we do it.
Yeah. Just, my last guest, her name's Erica. She works for Catholic Community Services. We talked a lot about this savior complex, and for us being white savior complex of this idea that we think that we need to go in and save individuals or the community from certain level of things. And I think it is an important discussion for us all to have of how we approach helping others. You know, we can approach it from this savior perspective or complex, but if we can remove that and be a little bit more honest in our approaches, I think it really would help the community a lot more.
Indeed. And ourselves, we will grow as
for sure.
human beings as well.
Any tips or tricks that you've noticed on how to overcome that sort of savior complex on whatever level it is for whoever is wanting to help out in the community?
Leave your comfort zone. Allow yourself to learn, to make mistakes. It can be scary. Sometimes individuals ask me, like, I want to learn. Can you teach me? What about if you want to learn? Walk the extra mile. Leave your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I will walk with you, but you leave your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think being humble and recognize how communities have been oppressed, talking about historical trauma, and I need to earn the respect of this community if I want to be accepted. It's not, I have the right to be there. No, you earn that respect. You earn that trust.
Are you finding that people are willing to take that walk with you, that they're wanting to go and do that, and they just need a little, maybe a little bit of push or hand-holding or somebody standing by their side?
You are an example, my friend. You are doing that. You're working with the community right now. So yes, there's a lot of people working in the community, and there's hope. Utah had changed. Salt Lake had changed since I moved here. Now we're talking about more diverse groups. We have to work, still work,
Right.
but that's why we're here, right?
Right.
That's why we're here. But it had changed. We have so many allies right now, people who are willing to invest, to work, to fight for social justice. And when I say fight, in the macro level, changing policies, going to the Capitol, writing bills, I mean, doing what we're supposed to do as well, right?
Right.
Going to school, educating themselves, having these conversations, these open, safe spaces. We have become so polarized, black or white, good or bad, and we need gray spaces. We need to have these conversations in a safe space.
So it feels like for you that we are making some progress in those areas.
Indeed.
From your perspective, what accounts for that progress?
Tell me more about that question.
Like why? Yeah, I would agree that we're making progress as a community in those spaces of being less polarized and coming together and helping and working on the community. But I'm not always sure, and my perspective is probably different than yours. Like, what's making us progress, or what factors are coming into play that are helping us progress?
New generations, probably.
Okay, I agree.
They are exposed to globalization, internet changed the conversation, and social media. All these platforms have changed the conversation, and people are willing to learn and to bring more to the table. It's more about, it's not anymore, well, sometimes it's not anymore about me, but I want to hear what you have to say. And that change when we're willing to listen, it opens that channel of conversation. It changes the dynamics.
So
Do
the younger,
you think?
Yeah, I think so. The younger generation's better at
Yeah.
doing that.
Definitely. Definitely, they are more inclusive. They are definitely more inclusive. And they are aware. And they are willing to invest on prevention, perhaps. So
Is that just a byproduct of growing up in more diverse places, or is there something else that's going into it, do you think?
There are so many factors. I think that, being right now, they have lived through so many things, and they have experienced so many changes at the same time. The world changes so fast. It's so fascinating. They're part of this change, so they know how important it is to be inclusive. I think I was talking just the other day with my 13 years old, and the way he was talking about, and I have a friend, they told me, and how natural sounds for him, it's just amazing. I didn't grow up with these, pronouns, and I love it. I love that we're having this conversation and open spaces. I love, my son is talking about that. We need to be trauma informed. I'm like, what? I have to go to school and pay a master's and all student loans, and you are just in middle school and talking about already inclusiveness and neutrality, and it's amazing how much information they have. I love it. I think that's important.
Yeah, that is awesome to hear that he is talking about that. And are you having those conversations as a family too?
Yes.
Because that doesn't. On one level, I think they are talking about these sort of things in schools more, and it's easier to talk about them in schools. But on the other hand, I think a lot of it comes down to individual families having those conversations in their homes as well. So it seems like you're having those conversations openly as a family to some extent.
Sometimes my wife and I just look at each other and say, holy cow, we have so many open conversations here. Yes, I think it's responsible to have those conversations. I think the only way to change what we want to change is through education. I really believe in that, in awareness, in education, and hopefully we're doing that at home, because my kids talk about those things, and I have seen them having conversation with their friends as well and advocate for other people. So that's what we want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to go briefly back to this topic of pronouns that you brought up, because it's a big topic lately, right? To certain levels. And I understand it, and I think we definitely should open those spaces for people to be more inclusive of those. But I'm a little bit curious about the Spanish language and the pronouns as well, because I speak a little bit of Spanish, and I know enough that, it's gender-based. You kind of, certain words, male or female, or verbs, male or female, or, you could tell us more how it works. But does that make the use of language in Spanish harder to navigate the whole pronoun thing?
Yes, it's changing. Academia is changing that part as well. And it used to be like a O is for male and A for female, right?
Right.
And then we have some neutral like a E, estudiante, so it can be for la estudiante or el estudiante, the student.
Right.
And now we're opening things like amigue. It's not amigo or amiga, it's amigue, and that's more inclusive.
Okay.
And that's for the LGBTQI plus community.
Interesting.
So it's opening a conversation. When I went to Colombia, it was amazing for me to see how traditional country is now having these conversations about gender and sexual orientation, and it's more inclusive. Because, Latinos, macho men, and all the stereotypes. So having this conversation has changed safe spaces, and it's wonderful to have that.
So this is perhaps going to be an evolution of the Spanish language as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra will say about it. Probably
Who's he?
He's not happy. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, it's changing. Language is really dynamic, like life is, like
Yeah,
human beings.
for
We
sure.
change, and we have to be flexible. We cannot be rigid. It's part of human being nature,
Right.
so we have to accept it.
Yeah, I think change is inevitable. We're having similar conversations in our community and this country as well. Like there are this certain group of traditionalists that like, why would we want to change things? You know, this is how it is. This is how it's been. Is that conversation happening in Latin America and Colombia as well? Like a stronghold of traditionalists saying, no, we don't need to make these changes versus more progressive groups or whatever?
It is, and I understand the fear. Changes create fear, right? We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
If I have some privilege, what I want to lose those privilege. It feels good.
Right.
But then you have to think about those who are oppressed and those groups who deserve as well to have those rights and those privilege. And it comes to social justice. So, okay, we can find that point where everybody has those privileges, those rights. More than privilege, are rights to be treated as a human being.
Right. As a educator, so I know a little bit about you and working with college-age students. And, I mean, I shouldn't say college-age because, you know.
What's college age?
Yeah, what's college age? People are going to college at all ages. But people who are in college, individuals who are in college are a little bit more maybe aware and open to these conversations. So how do you approach it in your classes when you first are coming together as a group? How do you open up the conversation to make it a little bit safer for people to join and be comfortable?
I don't hide things. What you see is what you get here, home, college, anywhere. And my students know that. I always talk about, I don't care if you are pro this administration, against this administration, pro the last administration, against the last administration, but in my classroom, you are safe. And you are able to have any conversation. And we will talk about, and you will present your arguments, and I will present mine. And that doesn't mean that we have to agree. But if an academia, we can have this conversation. So where? So I don't allow bullies in my classroom.
Okay.
I'm really clear about that.
Sure.
Everybody's welcome. What I teach is really diverse, and it's the beauty. And the students are well invested. They want to learn. They're willing and, I will say, eager to have these conversations, because not everybody, there's not a lot of spaces to have it, right?
Yeah.
Because of that polarized situation.
Right.
So in my classroom, we can talk about anything and everything, being professionals, but you have the freedom.
How has everybody been handling when somebody does make a mistake and says something that's offensive? Has that come up?
Yeah, definitely. So an individual feel entitled, and that's where I have to intervene and remember everybody that this is a classroom that I understand, and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel after that comment? And that's kind of the clinical part.
The social worky part of like, yes. let's talk about our feelings.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And I love those moments.
Right.
I love those moments because it just moves the grounds and everybody's like, wow, what just happened? Let's talk about what just happened.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful moment.
And sorry to go back to the feelings, but the feeling in those sort of moments is pretty powerful and pretty strong. Like you can feel that something is changing and that people are paying attention and that there is a feeling involved with that experience.
I agree with you. And sometimes it's that aha moment. I didn't know as a student, and then this happened, and I'm just like, wow.
Right.
And that pays off for the whole semester.
Right.
If you can have that epiphany, that moment, that's the payoff. So I love when those moments happen.
Yeah. I would imagine you're the type of personality that, maybe those moments happen a decent amount for you, that like you can facilitate those moments a little bit more because of your calling and passion of serving and helping people.
I like to have provocative conversations.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't think that going to college is just delivering some syllabi and some chapters and presenting PowerPoint. I like critical thinking. I like to challenge my students with questions, and let's build from there. Sure, we deliver a curriculum because we have to. They have to learn. But let's talk about what's happening today in Utah. Let's talk what happened at the Capitol. Let's talk what happened with this specific group. What do you think?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Oh, it's not fair. Okay, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just say it's not fair? So I like to challenge my students. And I do because I care about them. And because one day they will be social workers as well, working with the community.
Right.
And community is where my heart belongs. So I want to be sure that they are prepared and doing a great job.
As a community, maybe specifically here in Utah, what provocative conversations are we avoiding having?
I don't think that we're avoiding conversations. I think that we are probably shy and a little timid to talk about change. We talk about immigration. We talk about racism. We talk about disparities. We talk about trauma. We were having these conversations, and the good part is that people in charge are willing to have those conversations. They are investing. So that's good. We're building those bridges.
So in charge, like the governor, or in charge the mayor, like
the offices, different offices, the departments, different departments in the city, the county, the state. They are investing. They are doing research. It's not anymore about I'm going to find research and then I'm leaving with the data and that's it. Now they are working. They really want to see results. You know that.
Yeah.
You know that because that's what you do. It's not just collecting data, but you invested. You really want results. You really want to serve that community. So people like you have become an important ally in our community.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I guess sometimes I get jaded a little bit because sometimes there is this feeling of like they just are after some sort of result or number of how we're doing this, and maybe not as concerned about the actual social emotional change in people, if that makes sense. They're like, how can I reach these diverse communities and show me the numbers of diverse communities you're reaching? And they're just concerned about the reach and maybe not the full transformation. I don't know if transformation is the best word, but this full, like, okay, we're really having an effect in helping these people, rather than just like, oh, I met with Javier and he identifies as Latinx, so I'm checking that box, sort of thing.
Yeah, I hear you. And yes, I hear you, but we're not invisible anymore.
Sure.
We have a voice. I have a voice. And I'm empowering others to have their own voice. And until somebody finds their voice, I'm willing to be the speaker for that whisper.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Willing to yell if I need to yell.
Do you feel like that you've had to build up that voice over time, being an immigrant? You know, sometimes we try as proud Americans to squash an immigrant voice and to, for one weird reason or another, not want to acknowledge immigration, even though we're all immigrants. You know, it's not our country's history is not that long, so we all came as immigrants at one point.
I had some wonderful white allies in the community, a wonderful professor who inspired me and mentored me. It hasn't been easy. And it's not just the white community. Sometimes your own community stop you. It's you know, sometimes it's like, but you are part of me. Why you are doing this, or why your name is recognized? I want to be there. And sometimes that jealousy, because let's be honest, that happens anywhere.
Sure.
But I also, again, I don't want to sound like the person who's against the white community. No. I'm not married with a white person. I love her so much. And wonderful mentors, wonderful friends, people who I admire like you. So there's so many people invested in these changes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. one area that I always notice influence in the community of course, is religion. Religion's such a huge topic here in Utah. So we've kind of talked a little bit about government, city government, state government, the governor, other folks in those different offices being more sensitive to these topics. How's religion doing on all of this in your perspective?
Tell me more about your question.
Like, I mean, we could start by just the biggest religion here in Utah, Mormonism. Like, I think they hold a lot of power in decision making and lots of resources, of course, and they can have a big influence, and I think they are. But I'm just curious of your perception on maybe, let's start with Mormonism. How are the Mormons, their capital right here in Salt Lake, how they're dealing with everything?
That's a tough question because I have done some work with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have done some work in the community with them. They have opened doors and grants to serve the Latinx community. It has been a really interesting dynamic. I consider myself more spiritual than religious at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that I do not agree. There are other things that I respect. There are other things that I disagree 100%, and I'm really vocal about that. I think any institution, and because, let's be honest, the Latinx community historically is more Catholic.
Uh-huh.
So, but Catholicism also refers to colonization as well.
Uh-huh.
You see, so it's religion has always played an important role in my community.
Right.
Always. Forgive me, audience, but I think that religion was created to oppress communities. That's my personal point of view. That's how it came to America. It was imposed, right? But at the same time, it is an important element for my community to cope with trauma,
Right.
to cope with hope, with immigration, social issues. So it's kind of on both sides. We need it.
I'm with you, and I've gone through similar struggles of trying to figure this out. I grew up Mormon, but no longer identify as Mormon, and have my opinions about how things are. But I don't think I'm saying we should shut down religion or churches.
Correct.
And I don't think you're saying that either.
No, at all.
Yeah. So I don't know where that, and it's probably not middle ground. I don't know where, how that looks, what that looks like, of acknowledging that we need the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We probably need the Catholic Church for our community to go around at some level. Or are we eventually going to get to the super progressive, non-religious, secular, we're all a happy society? I don't know. It's kind of a weird thought, right?
Well, in social work, we always talk about meeting the client where the client is at.
Uh-huh.
And if religion is part of the support system that a community and individual have, and it's important, and that community, that individual relies on that support system, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. But if religion becomes punishment, it becomes a pain, I think it's smart to explore the idea of how good it is for me to continue here. So I think it's a personal decision. I think it's a collective decision where we're talking about community.
Uh-huh.
But it's not my call to say it's good or bad. It may work for this community, it may not. We're human. That's the beauty of human beings. What works for somebody doesn't work for the other one, right? We cannot make like a general statement and say, this is good, this is bad. No, I don't think that it will be fair to say that.
No, I don't think so either. Where my brain kind of goes towards is this idea of informed consent, of being a little bit better in terms of all aspects of how we operate in the community, of informing consent, of participating in certain things. And so in terms of transparency on churches, religions, businesses, nonprofit agencies, all of it. Like, what, can we be a little bit more transparent and inform consent of those that want to participate in those spaces?
I think we should. I think we should in anything and everything, not just religion, in anything. Communities have the right to know the truth and decide. But also we have to remember that knowledge is power. Do we want community to have that power? That's the question.
Well, and
I do.
I want the community to have that power as well. But yeah, does the leaders of some of these religions or even the government want the community to have that power? No, I don't think they do.
Again, it's that general statement, and I don't think that is fair. I have seen so many people working really hard in important roles in the community and the state level and city level, and they're really invested and they're doing a wonderful job. They're willing to have these conversations, and we have also to value that.
Since we're talking about religion, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
And I just want to get, an alternative perspective, and perhaps this is personal and like just for me, but I think others would benefit from this. So are these sort of things performative at some level, though? Like religions and nonprofits even, or corporations like saying, okay, we're going to really get involved in the community and make a difference in these spaces. Sometimes it just feels performative to me. Performative meaning like they're just doing it for optics of it.
Well, you have the right to feel that way. And we can talk about why are you feeling that way. That's totally fine. I can validate that. I can see that. Let's talk about it.
Well, I can talk for days about it, but I'm just interested in maybe, and I'm gonna flip it back on you, like just your perspective of like, am I just jaded? Do you sometimes feel that these things are performative by other people, other organizations?
It happens everywhere and anywhere. It happens here. It happens in my country. I believe it happens in anywhere. We have to learn. We have to be careful. We have to choose. We need to be aware who wants to harm or who wants to help. And we choose what's really convenient, what's really good for the community. And then the other things, we let them pass and we say, I don't agree with you. I'm willing to work with you if we just reassess this and we can move from there. And if that person, that group, that organization is not ready, it's okay. It's okay.
That's a great answer. I really like that. It takes me back to a few conversations ago. Another friend, Austin, was here, and he was born in West Virginia and moved to, I think, spent some time in California, and then ultimately here in Utah for the last 10 years. But he was saying, he doesn't feel maybe as connected to the community as he would like based upon living here for 10 years, and how to kind of get more connected and how to support the structures and things that he felt needed to be supported. And it was kind of in this conversation is like, well, where are you going to put your time and energy? What businesses, what other parts of the community are you going to patronize so that you're putting your time and energy into those things that you think are uplifting and good for the community? Definitely.
I agree.
Yeah. I think it ultimately does come down to an individual responsibility of where we're putting our time and effort and how that looks, so that we can, find those things in the community that really build us up and support what we want our community to look like.
Definitely, we have to remember that we're part of that community. I'm not Javier trying to help the community. I belong to that community. So I need to be honest. I need to feel part of that.
Yeah. Going back, one thing that came up in my head surrounding this Latinx topic is that we're good at grouping a large number of people into Latinx. So that could be everything from Mexico all the way down to the tip of Chile and Argentina. We just say everybody's Latinx. Is is that a fair sort of statement? Do we need to do better at like acknowledging different groups and nationalities and countries of origin in all of these conversations?
It's so interesting. It has changed so much. Hispanic, Latino, Latinx. Latino if you're from Latin America, Hispanic if you speak Spanish. But at the same time, we have in Latin America, Brazil, and they speak Portuguese. So it's really, really interesting. It changes every single day. I'm barely learning one idea, one concept, and they suddenly change it. And like, no, I'm already behind. So you just need to try to learn and be part of the conversation and move forward. And if at one point you make mistakes, you ask. I think asking, well, as an immigrant for me, it's so easy to ask because that's the only way to learn how to navigate the system. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not embarrassed to make mistakes, and I'm not afraid to ask because that's the only way to survive. Definitely, that's the only way. But I think when we don't know, and like I said, Latino is a Latina. Some communities identify as a Latinos. I identify as a Latino male. And in Latin America, that's how I grew up with that concept, and I'm loyal to that. I have friends who told me, no, I'm not Latino. I am a transnational human being. But I live in Colombia. Like, okay. So I really can't answer that question. What's the right term or no?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't know that I expect like a solid answer surrounding that, but maybe it's just like this curiosity for me that as service providers or however you look at it, we just kind of put this big group together and like, oh, the Latino community or the Latinx community needs this. And that can include like everything from anybody that identifies from country of origin in Central America all the way to South America. And it's just like, is it really that we can just simplify it down to like Latinx? Of course, no, we shouldn't. But then on one level, we're all just human beings. So why are we trying to just put a Latinx or an American or an African or a European label on anything?
I don't even know why we need labels.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you are an immigrant, you need that sort of a community, right? If being with the community from Venezuela, Ecuador, Central America, means that my community gets a stronger, bigger, and a louder voice, put me that. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Sometimes people ask me, so are you from where? Say Colombia. Colombia, Mexico? No. Is it close to Mexico? Like, no, it's a little bit farther south. So do you speak Mexican or Colombian? Like, you choose. You choose, right? But sometimes when they ask me, are you from Mexico? Yes, I am. Yes, I am, because there's probably a conversation, a political conversation in the community, and that because I have a voice, I want to use it for my Mexican community, for the community I serve. Sometimes I'm Chilean.
I see. Yeah, I think that's some good insight and some good perspective I hadn't thought of before. All right. Again,
well, you don't have to.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I guess that's back to my privilege of like I haven't had to think about how to navigate those things or what it means, and haven't been in a position where I live somewhere where somebody was just trying to identify me by my ethnicity or country of origin or whatever. And, to a certain extent, you're like, oh, how do you identify? Are you Caucasian and what is Eastern European? Yeah, well, what is that? I don't know. It gets kind of funny when you get into the weeds.
My name is Peter, and I'm from the United States. However, what's your name, Javier? Where are you from? That's the second question.
Right. Yeah.
Why? Why is that important?
Yeah, it's a good question. I am personally drawn to the curiosity of where people come from and what their background is, and maybe that's just my deep curiosity in people and what makes them who they are, sort of thing. Because being able to state at the beginning of the podcast your family heritage, your family line with all the grandparents and everything like that, that's impressive. That's obviously very important to who you are, right?
It is beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's explore that for a second, this idea, because one other guest that I talked to about this question of where you're from, her comment was that it doesn't immediately make an other situation. It puts you as an other. Like if I ask you where you're from and you say Colombia, now you're somebody from Colombia and you're not Javier anymore. Have you felt that? Have you experienced that? You notice that sort of thing, that it quickly comes to where you're from?
Where are you from? You remind me Do you know what I'm talking about? Where are you from? Yeah, I need to send it a link. Yes. Sometimes as soon as I say I'm from Colombia, the conversation change. And it can be painful because then you become the recipient of comments like, again, Pablo Escobar, narcotráfico, guerrillas. We're more than that.
Sure.
And so you have to educate people. You have to, but sometimes you don't want to educate. Sometimes you are just tired of microaggressions, right?
Right.
That happens every single day. But it happens also with the Latinx community. They also sometimes say things like that. I say I'm from Colombia. Somebody from another country, a brother or sister from another country just said, oh, Pablo Escobar, like, there we go. There we go. Can we just change this conversation? Can we help each other? Can we support each other with something more? So that tells you how much work we have to do within our community.
For you, what would that look like? What would the difference, the positive steps in that space look like? Like, what would change?
When we know who we are, when we respect and love ourselves and our community, we project that. We don't hide anymore. We're not invisible anymore. And that changes everything in your life. You find your voice. When you become visible, when you can use your voice, you can express your wants, your needs. You feel as a human. A student told me one day, may I share a story?
Please.
A student told me the other day, we were talking about Mexico and Independence Day. And here in the States, we celebrate Cinco de Mayo, which is not Independence Day at all.
Right.
And one student raised their hand and they say, you know why we allow everybody else to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Because it's the only day we can use our voice. It's the only day we don't have to hide. It's the only day we can yell and be proud and say, Viva Mexico. And it touched my heart. It melted my heart that some community have to live just in fear 24/7. So when you find your voice, when you educate, when you become one, when you are allowed to spaces like this, it changed everything. You can go back to the community and say, it's possible, guys. It's possible, ladies. You all, this can be possible. You can, I don't like to say the word inspire, but there always kids looking after you, and you can be a role model, somehow. So it changed the conversations.
So once there's more equity in opportunity and power, that whole conversation changes, and maybe the perspective of the person asking the question of where you're from and the perspective of the person getting asked that question also changes to a certain extent.
Indeed.
Because, I don't know, going back to your story, if I were to ask somebody from Mexico on Cinco de Mayo where they're from, they're going to, Mexico, they're going to become strong, like, I'm from Mexico. But if I were asking them that as a police officer that pulled them over where, there's no real reason to ask that sort of question, then it becomes a power play, like, oh, you're not from this country? Then you leading more questions. I don't know. Is that a too extreme of an example?
I don't know. We will have to ask that person in that hypothetical example.
Sure.
Really, because I don't feel it fair to make that statement. But I think that we know and we don't feel shame or fear. I mean, where you're from is your identity, is the voice of your ancestors.
Right.
And when you have to hide that, who are you anymore? Who? You're like a ghost.
Right.
Just wearing skin That's it.
These are some, deep existential sort of, what does it even mean? Like, at one level, we're just a human being, but on the other level, there's some real depth to acknowledging who our family is and our ancestors and where they came from and the struggle that they went through to help us to get to where we are today, and what opportunity comes from where we are today because of those things that our ancestors did. So it is a real mind warp if you sit there and think about it, you know.
It is indeed. So let's be grateful with my grandfather who told me that. Let's honor him today.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a good way to think about it, you know. Some days we do need to think about how we can honor those that came before us, that sacrificed so much to get us to where we are today. And you can honor those people that have direct blood connection to you, but you can also honor those in the community that came before you in this community to build up a community that we live in right now in Salt Lake and are benefiting from it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for sure. Salt Lake City, Utah, unique place on the map for a lot of people. The positive parts of it, what are some of the best things about Salt Lake, Utah that you really like and enjoy and identify with?
I love the mountains.
Okay.
I don't even say mountains anymore. Now I say mountains.
Just like a Utah, we don't pronounce our T's. Yeah.
So I love the mountains. Beautiful snow. This morning it just looked gorgeous. I love the willingness of some individuals to make changes. I love that we're in an interesting moment right now where we have groups for different countries and races. I love seeing all those colors on the streets. I love when I see my kids talking about future. I love the hope that our state is having. I love the value of families. There's so many wonderful things here. I love to see the dreams of my community. I love when some of the members of my community are getting higher education and that they're making changes and they are working as a role model. All the changes, I love that. I'm so grateful right now for the changes that are happening. Ojo, hay muchos cambios que hacer. There are many changes to work on.
Uh-huh.
But it's happening slowly, but it's happening.
And when you mention your community, I'm kind of assuming and clarifying that you're talking a little bit more specifically about the Latinx community here in Salt Lake or in Utah in general.
Correct.
Do you feel like that at some level you bridge the gap between the Latinx community and the greater just Salt Lake community in general? Or is that a conversation that the Latinx community has? Like, you know, like you said, obviously you can have the identity as a Latinx community and see and help and serve in that community, but you're helping people grow in a larger Salt Lake community. So I don't know, is there a division in your brain about that, or how do you perceive or think about that?
Do you think there's a division?
I don't know, because I mean, I'm ultra curious about the language that we use. So you said my community, you know, the Latinx community. So does that mean you're not part of my community as well? Because I'm not Latinx.
I can navigate both communities.
Sure.
I can do it. I had that privilege. I can move in both instances. But definitely I identify as a Latino.
Sure.
So when I say my community is because indeed I love what I do. I love the families I serve. I think they are my families. But I don't say my families because that can have another connotation with the religion. So I don't want people to think that I have many families. So that's what
It's
I say,
okay
my
if you
community.
do. Yeah.
That's what I say, my community. I think that there's a division. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
As historically is, and redlining, all the stuff. There's always that, right?
Yeah, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with groups and subgroups and communities, and I mean, sub is probably the wrong word because that usually means below, but like different parts of the community. But I guess I get curious about it from a perspective of, well, community at one level just means like all of Salt Lake or all of Utah. We're a part of a community. So do we feel, do certain people feel more part of this overall Utah Salt Lake community, or do some feel a little bit more comfortable identifying in, you know, the Latino, Latinx part of Salt Lake specifically?
In my case, in my personal case,
Sorry, I'm going to move this a little bit. There you go.
Sorry.
That's all right. I just don't want anybody to miss out on your lovely voice. So.
Dude, in my personal case, you know what? It changes. It depends. If I'm using my voice as an amplifier, I identify as a Latino. If I'm teaching, I'm part of the community that we have at college.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm not trying to get you to just pick one or the other. I'm not trying to corner you into a situation. I'm just kind of trying to explore these ideas of how we define our community, right, and how we can look at it. Because at some level, the goal of conversation is to bring us all a little bit closer together.
Yes.
Right? And so to have a conversation and open up about what does it mean to be a part of the Latinx community in Salt Lake versus is there a difference between just the general Salt Lake community? What does even the general Salt Lake community look like?
We need to be realistic. The Latinx community has historical trauma. When we talk about the Latinx community, we talk about immigration, we talk about racism, we talk about oppression, we talk about poverty. We talk about stigmas. We talk about data showing that our teenagers don't finish high school. We talk about lack of support systems, gangs. That's the conversation. That's the conversation that we have. When I say with everybody, I think. So that creates divisions. It's hard. I don't think that I'm a bridge. I think you mentioned something like a bridging. I think I'm part of that puzzle, trying to provide skills, tools, so we can change the numbers. We can change the stigma. We can change the conversation. I think that's what is more relevant right now, to focus on the changes that we can do, what we can bring to the table, what we can build together. So we become just one.
Yeah.
We become what's one. It's not like the East or the West, right? I mean, it will be always the East and the West, but if we build those bridges, at one point it will be easier from the West to go to the East and the East to the West and learn about diversity, and that means food, folklore, language, everything, multiracial, racial couples. That's what I think. I don't know if I answered your question, Peter.
Well,
No.
and I'm doing a really good job of kind of asking these broader, like, weird sort of questions. So you're doing a great job. I appreciate it.
I love you, dude.
To build
You're
off
supposed
these,
to say I love you too.
I love you too,
There we
Javier.
go.
Sorry, my brain was like, okay, how can I word this next question? But yeah, definitely love you, Javier. I appreciate all that you do. My thought goes to, like, me as a person that is not a part of the Latinx community. What am I not hearing or don't understand about the Latinx community that I could better understand as somebody that's a native Utahn, born and raised here, but want to be more welcoming to the Latinx community or more open to hearing their voices and including their voices in a part of our overall community? What can I do better?
That's a tough question because you are walking the extra mile. You, Peter, you are doing it.
Okay, so take me as just like a regular old community member, not me as you know me as who I am and what I do for work, but just maybe as the native Utah community.
Some individuals, I have learned, some individuals are really intrigued about, okay, there are changes. Who are these people? Where are they coming from? What do they need? What do they mean when they dress this way or when they say these words? I think, again, reaching out and getting out of the comfort zone, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay, but it's okay to ask questions. Some friends have told me, Javier, I don't know if it's proper to ask this or no, because it seems like it's such a touchy subject right now. Everything I say can be just, right? And I think if you are honest, people can read, people can sense that. Don't be afraid. Ask. But this is not just from the Latinx community, any movement. If we're talking about survivors of domestic violence, if you want to become an advocate, you have to educate yourself so you don't harm. Right? So educate yourself with any group. If you don't know about the LGBTQ plus community, just educate yourself.
Right.
Education is the key.
Yeah.
There decrease risk factors and increase protective factors. You know that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us to just be sensitive about how we approach situations and know that we're not going to get it right all the time. We might get it wrong, but if there's sensitivity when you approach these sort of situations, the other people involved, the other person involved, I think will recognize that sensitivity and recognize the authenticity that you're approaching with about sensitive topics.
May I add something?
Of course.
I learned when I moved here, I learned that I was brown. I didn't know that I was brown. I was in Colombia, I was Javier. Then I moved here in Utah, not in Florida, in Utah, I learned that I was brown. Then another thing that I learned is that it's not my business. I can't eat that. Oh, it's not my business. Yes, it is. Wherever you live, whatever your race is, what is happening in the community is your business. It is. You're part of that puzzle. If the table has 4 legs and one is missing, it won't work the same. And the third thing is time is money. I struggle with that. Time for me means quality. It means I care about you. That 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever money you make is no more important than reaching out and calling and say, hey, I got a missed call from you. Are you okay? Are you okay? Or I'm thinking of you. That's also being part of the community.
That seems to be a big part of your personality and kind of, I don't know, your love language, the 5 love languages, quality time. Like you show your love and your care by spending time with people and making sure that you give of your time in a quality way.
I'm trying to.
You do a great job.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're always checking in and making sure people are doing well and being really sincere about the way you approach it. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Peter. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, of course. As you look forward into the future, you mentioned, your children, the next generation, or even for yourself. Is there hope there, fear there? Where are you at with the future, where we're going?
Oh, definitely there's hope. Definitely there's hope. So many changes happening. Generations involved in this global change, inclusiveness, having these conversations, having you in the community working, doing the job that you do because you feel it, because it's who you are, right? Yeah, there's hope. There's hope, and there's a lot of work to do, but that's good. If we just sit down and say, that's it, we're done, nothing else to do, that will be the end. That will be the end. So, yes, there's hope, especially after COVID. We need to. We have to.
Yeah, I agree. There needs to be a lot more coming together. And one thing that I've noticed about COVID is that we did come together when this pandemic first started happening. We all felt a little bit closer together, even though we were maybe isolating from each other and spending time in quarantine or whatever. It seems to have shifted to a lot more division. I don't know if it's coming back to feeling a little bit more cohesive and us all coming together to get over all of this. What's your perception been?
And somebody told me, I don't know, a few months ago, like, yeah, I can't wait to back to normal. Like, no, I don't want to go back to normal. Whatever normal was before, I don't want that. I agree with you. I think when we were scared, when we didn't know what happened, even if we kind of closed doors, windows, and everything, and some people bought a lot of toilet paper. I don't understand still why. But probably you can explain that to me, because I don't understand why.
I don't know. I don't understand why a lot of things are happening the way they are. But.
So I think many individuals change and start like a catharsis process and learn. And it seems to me like now that things are, I'm doing this quotation, getting better. Some individuals are going back to the same mode, and it's sad to see that, to witness that. But I think that more changed. I think that people value more things now, what really matters. I think, well, probably because that's what I want to think.
That's what your hope and your optimism is telling you.
As a social worker, I have to. I have to rely on strength. Think about weakness and barriers doesn't help me. I need to see the strength in order to move forward.
Can you describe an example of what you've seen of, like, you don't want to go back to the old normal, you want a new way of doing things? What have you noticed that is optimistic? Or
I have seen people families, brothers, sisters, who never talked before, calling now. It seems like more individuals understood the value of I'm here. One of the things when I came here also, my neighbor, I have no idea who my neighbor is. Like, what is your neighbor? Something happened? Hey, I need help.
Yeah.
Right? And so that collectiveness, I come from a collective society. And I think that we were so individualistic society?
Yeah.
That had changed. I think that we don't take anything else for granted. We became such a spoiled society, and then something moved, and it wasn't the earthquake, it was COVID. And we realized, I'm not the epicenter of everything. I'm a speck in this universe. I'm an important part of this universe, but there's more specks around me.
Yeah.
So we became more humble, I think. Again, that's the social work perspective. I agree.
It helps us all realize how quickly things can change, and sometimes not for good. And in those times when it's not for good, that we do need to come together and be a little bit more unified and remember that sibling or family member that we haven't talked to and be like, all right, if there's a reminder we needed, here it is. Let's get connected to those that we love again. I've noticed that for sure. Like, I feel like my family spends more time together and is more sensitive towards each other since all of this happened. And probably that's a general statement about difficult times as well. Like,
the sad part is why we have to wait
for the difficult
COVID.
Times. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Because, Christmas is coming and everybody is good on Christmas. Let's give money, donations. Let's help everybody. I love you. January, same people, same population, same needs. What happened with all those wishes? And
it's a valid point. I've thought about that too, and I don't know that I know a good answer. It's a tough one. I wish people would be more loving and giving and caring year round.
What are we going to do about it? What can you and I do about it?
First, do a podcast about it.
There we go.
Yeah, certainly talk about it. Wider than just our two voices. Talk about it with other people. I think second, we do need to put the energy into the community that we want to get out of it. So if we want this energy of giving and loving and supporting each other, if we put that in, others will notice, and I think they'll want to join in as well. I think in a simple sense, it is like this advertising marketing scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're advertising love and giving and caring, and we're advertising that by our actions, I think other people will be more happy to jump on to that and catch on to that. They'll notice those feelings.
Definitely. And supporting and loving your community doesn't mean you go against another community.
Yeah.
That's really important also to understand that. Because I support the Latinx community, that doesn't mean that I don't care about other communities.
Yeah.
It's my job as a human being to support those communities.
Right.
Regardless race, sexual orientation, political views, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Social justice is social justice, period.
Well said. And I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but I was just trying to bring it together about this thought about community and where we're going as a community. I think what I was going to say is that I think part of that whole thing will be us all being a little bit better about our feelings and being in touch with those feelings, because if we're ignoring our feelings or not sure about those feeling things between us and our community and other people we're interacting with, it'd be harder to feel the momentum and change and the optimism and the care and the love that a community can put out there, if we're not in touch with those sort of things.
Yeah, definitely. We need to allow ourselves to be present, and it's okay to feel the way we're feeling, and from there start building answers, right? And validating others' feelings as well, even if we don't agree. But I can't imagine. This is hard for you. Again, the social work part, right?
Right.
And then from there, okay, we're feeling this. Now what?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it? What would you like to happen? What do you need to do?
Yeah.
And then start empowering individuals and helping to build, be part of the new.
Yeah. I think a lot of us are unwilling to see from others' perspectives, especially when we get towards things that really grind our gears. Oh, can I imagine why somebody would vote for Donald Trump? Or can I imagine, all these really controversial topics? I mean, I try to push myself into those spaces and see what that might look like. On the opposite side, I mentioned a more politically right Donald Trump thing, but the left side as well. Can I imagine what it was like to vote for Hillary Clinton, or what, however you want to pose it? Yeah, you should probably put yourself in those shoes and see what that looks like, because you probably understand your neighbor a little bit better,
I think so. I think it's fair before you judge or decide. Try to wear the shoes. See what they are feeling. What are their fears? Educate yourself about their needs, the lack of support, the trauma. And then from there, trying to understand. And that doesn't mean that they have to agree, but respect.
Yeah.
You have to respect.
Yeah, that's huge. People can feel that if you're not being respectful and not being genuine about it.
I think so.
As we wrap up, do you have any last thoughts or feelings or energy you want to put out into the community?
Vote for Pete, 2022.
Not running.
Come on, you can do a good job.
Maybe, but I really despise politics. So you can maybe outside of this podcast talk me into why I should be involved in politics. But
no, I just want to tell you, I really admire what you're doing. This is good. I'm really excited for you, and I wish you the best. I told you, you're a great human being.
Thank you.
And I just breathe. Everything will get better. But it doesn't get better just because it will get better. We need to get out of our comfort zone and make it work. Call the people that you have to work. To call, exercise your right, vote, be involved. Don't say it's not my business. It is. It is. If you are part of this community, it is. And don't avoid responsibilities. Don't avoid responsibilities. Enjoy the ride. Have conversations, provocative conversations. It's okay. It's fun. It's okay. Respect others. Drink some herbal tea.
It's always good. I like a little bit of peppermint tea myself.
There we go.
Ginger, yeah, that's a good one as well. I really like that. Get out of your comfort zones, everybody. You got to get out there and get out of that comfort zone, or else nothing's going to change. If people want to get in contact with Javier and connect with you, do you want people to? You can say no. We don't have to put anything out there. But if people want to listen to this and said, "Oh, I really like to get involved with what Javier's doing, I want to reach out to him," would you like them to do that?
If they want to say bad things, no. No, I would love to. I would love to know and meet new people in the community, people who are willing to work, and I would love to learn from new ideas, new generations, and get involved in different movements. And I'm always looking for programs to do in the community, and sure thing. I would love to. I love networking. You're a social worker. That's how social work works, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Working.
Well, we can discuss if it's email address or some other way, but we can put that in the notes to this episode. So if people want to reach out to you,
fair enough.
That would be great. And yeah, just a plug for Javier as an educator, a teacher, somebody that does great work in the community. I've worked with him, and he does an amazing job. So if you're looking for somebody to help and to teach and serve in your community, definitely connect with Javier.
Thank you, Peter. That's very kind. Thank you.
All right. I really appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. I mentioned earlier, some of this is really selfish for me to help me to learn and grow, but I hope others benefit from this conversation as well.
I enjoyed it. I love it. I was really nervous. Thank you so much for your kindness. Again, thank you. Thank you so much.
The nerves didn't show in, nobody else can see, only me, but he didn't look nervous, and none of the comments or anything seemed nervous at all. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.